Hello, good morning, dear students. Today we will be completing your poem, The Dover Beach, written by Matthew Arnold. The beginning two stanzas we have already done in our previous lecture. Now we have the third stanza of the poem, that is the lines 15 to 20. Sophocles long ago heard it on the Aegean, and it brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery. We find also in the sound a thought, hearing it by this distant northern sea. Sophocles is the Greek philosopher, and Aegean is the sea, ocean near Mediterranean, and turbid ebb and flow, that is the ups and downs of the water drops, waves, etc. So, what we have in these lines? As you know, these lines are from Arnold's famous poem, Dover Beach, that we have been doing. He is describing the beautiful sight of the sea shore of the Dover, where he himself is standing and enjoying himself the pleasure of the calmness of the sea. He also invites, in the previous stanza we saw, that he invites his wife to come there and enjoy the pleasure of the calm sea. He invites her to come to the window and look at that, enjoy that. He also says to her that now the coast of France is not shining as much as the coast of England is shining because of the change of the moon. So because of the change of the moon, now the coast of England is shining much more. So far these lines are concerned, let's go with them. He mentions the reference of Sophocles, who was a Greek dramatist, philosopher from 1496 to 1406 BC, before Christ. At the coast of the Aegean Sea, he also heard the roaring sound of the ebb and flow of the sea waves. So this Greek dramatist of Greece is also supposed to hear the same roaring sound of the ebb and flow of the sea waves at the coast of the Aegean Sea, as now here at the coast of the Dover Beach, the poet himself is hearing the roaring sound of the ebb and flow of the sea waves. So here there is the comparison, there is the simile. The sea, that is the Dover Beach here, has been compared with the Aegean Sea, that is near to Greece. And the poet himself has been here compared to the Sophocles. And the roaring sound of the ebb and flow of the sea waves of the Dover Beach here have been compared to the roaring sound of the ebb and flow of the Aegean Sea. So here we have the comparison, and the poet finds the same thing. As the Greek dramatist heard the roaring sound, in the same way, today at the Dover Beach, he is hearing the roaring sound of the ebb and flow of the sea waves. So, hearing the sound of the sea waves, Sophocles was also reminded of the increase and decrease in man's miseries. So, as the poet is here reminded of the miseries, or he hears the eternal sadness, eternal misery of sadness in the sound of the sea waves. In the same way, in the past, Sophocles also was reminded of the increase and decrease in man's miseries. This is what the poet wants to say. Sometimes man becomes very miserable due to physical illness or loss of his kith and kin. So here the poet is describing the pains and sufferings that the human beings is continuously having. Sometimes we have the loss of the physical fitness, sometimes we have the loss of our kith and kin, relatives, etc. So this is the flow of miseries that is going on continuously from the last long ago. And sometimes we also get relieved of these miseries. And this is, he calls, the ebb. When you are free from such sufferings, it is the ebb of the waves. That is the tide of the waves. But the human being, according to the poet, is never perfectly happy, because again the miseries increase. So this is what we have in these lines, that the poet is here giving the reference of the Sophocles, the Greek philosopher or the dramatist, who also heard the same sound at the Aegean Sea and was reminded of the same agony, anxiety, sadness of the human being, as here the poet is reminded of at the Dover beach. Now the poet says in another lines, next lines from 21 to 28, the next stanza of this poem, that the sea of faith was once too at the full, and round earth shore lay like the folds of a bright girdle furled. But now I only hear its melancholy, long, withdrawing roar, retreating to the breath of the night wind down the vast edges drear, and naked shingles of the world. So here in these lines, the poet now is talking about the faith, about the trust, about the belief, about the religion that once was full in this world, but now it's no more there. It is in the same way as once the sea was full of the tide, full of the waves, but now there is only the flow of the waves, that is, the waves have returned. They have gone back, and there is only the pebbles which are left by the sea on the shore. So let's see the meaning, explanation of these lines. So he talks about what is reminded of and hearing the roaring sound of the sea waves. He says that the returning waves tell him the story of the decreasing religious faith. So the decreasing or the returning waves are the symbol of decreasing religious faith here. They are returning. They have left only the pebbles on the shore. In the same way, the poet here means to say that this world which was once full of the religious faith does not have much more now. In the olden days, it was covered, it was filled with the trust, faith, religion. Man's life was surrounded by that, like a bright folded belt, as if it was folded by a bright belt that we use to fold our waist. In the same way, the world was also surrounded by the religious faith in the ancient time or in the olden days, like the ebb of the waves. Every man had faith in some religion. At the time, every man believed in some religion. And generally, everyone had faith in God and morality. So, everyone used to believe in God, in morality. We believed in morality. But what had happened? In this modern scientific age, God has been dethroned. Earlier we supposed to the God the Almighty, the supreme power. But now in this scientific age, He has been dethroned. That is, we don't even think of God. We don't even think if there is any existence of God upon this earth or in this universe. So the morality and the God is now no more there in our life. And morality has become unpragmatic. So there is no morality, there is no moral in the actions, in the views of the man today. That is what the poet wants to convey. To the poet, the faithless world of today appears as cheerless, and therefore this world is cheerless. There is no pleasure, there is no excitement, no ecstasy, no delightness. So it is cheerless in the same way. Here again we have the comparison. The world now appears as cheerless as the naked pebbles of the sea, as the pebbles which have been left by the sea on the seashore. When the waves have ebbed away, when the waves return, only the naked pebbles are left on the seashore or remains there. So in the same way, the world which was once full of the faith and religion now appears cheerless. Now it does not have those things. Okay, I think you have been following me. Now we have the last stanza of this poem, that is the lines 28 to 36. Let's go with these lines, what the poet says. Oh, love, let's be true to one another, for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help or pain. And we are here as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. So, what you see, that in this poem, the poet is disappointed. The poet is feeling nervous. The poet is worried about this world, about the human beings who have changed themselves, who don't believe in religion, in faith. The faith has been disappeared from the people. And the people, as he says, are like the naked pebbles as we see on the seashore left by the sea waves. So we have nothing at all. We are useless, he means to say. And he also concludes that it is only love which can bring us together, all together. And that's why he invites his wife, his beloved. So here, let's see what he says. He again puts down his ideas about the world. The world is in fact a place which is different to man, indifferent to man. So it has become indifferent to man. The man have lost the pleasure in this world. The man has become more worldly. The world is beautiful, no doubt. Everyone accepts it. The world is full of nature. Here the poet also stresses upon the love for nature. He gives us these descriptions which are the symbol of nature. But what he means to say that man has become the indifferent towards the nature, as we see in Wordsworth's poem, in Wordsworth's poetry. So the world appears as if it is a land of dreams. and man has many hopes from this world. He thinks that the world is a beautiful place and he will be able to become perfectly happier. So man thinks that the world is a beautiful place and he will be definitely perfectly happy here. But what we see, that he is not happy even then. Why? Because he has lost the faith and trust and religion from his life. Therefore, he is not happy at all. This is only a delusion, and man is psychologically subject to. So, we are in fact in a delusion, in a confusion. The people are confused here. They are not finding the real pleasure from this world. So the world rather can be compared to a dark. So here the poet now compares this world with a dark battlefield. And in this darkness, what's happening? Because the darkness is there, the night is there, the darkness of night is there. So the armies are fighting with each other. But they are not able to identify with whom they are fighting, whether they are fighting with their friends or the enemies. Because they are battling, they are quarreling on the dark fields, on the dark battlefields. They are not knowing their friends and foes, enemies. So their mind is full of confusion and fear. And therefore the man living on this earth is always in confusion and always fearing in this world. There is only one consolation in this world, according to the poet, that can only come from the lovers, from the love, if they become the true to each other. So if they have the trust to each other, in each other, if they love honestly and truly, only that can bring some consolation in this world, or we can enjoy the pleasures of this world. So in this way, he entreats it with his beloved. That is, he gives the stress on love. The love is that which can bind us together. It is only affection and love which can join the world together. It is only love that we can live happily in this love. So, this was the meaning of these lines, of these stanzas. Dear students, so far the critical note of this poem is concerned, as I have already spoken in the introduction of this poem, that Arnold's concept of nature can be well contrasted to that of Wordsworth, to whom man was a nature's foster child. In fact, we compare Arnold's love for nature with the Wordsworth's love for nature, but there is major difference. Because to Arnold, nature extends no joy, love, light, certitude, peace of help to man. That is, Arnold does not find any love, any joy, any pleasure, any peace in the lap of nature. Whereas Wordsworth, as we saw, he finds all these things in the lap of nature. So here he has to manage on the basis of each other. Here Arnold's concept of nature is that we can get the pleasure only if we can manage on the basis of each other's help, or on the basis of each other's trust and religion and beliefs. Nature is quite indifferent to man, as Arnold sees. His poems have tragic note, as we have seen in this poem. There is the tragic note that is about the human being, about the miseries and agonies of the human being. And according to him, the only cure to the world's problems and ills is love, and to be true to each other. And therefore, he wants us to learn. He says, "Oh, love, let us be true to one another." That is, it is only love and it is only the faith that can bind us together. Man can kindle light in this dark world through love alone. So, only through love we can enlighten this world, this dark world, where the ignorant armies, we are ignorant, we are not knowledgeable, we are not able to identify who is our foes, enemies, or who is our friends. So we are not knowledgeable at all, we are not educated at all, but we are fighting in the darkening plains in the darkness. So we are fighting with our friends as well. Only the love can open our eyes. That is what the poet wants to convey in this poem. So this is all from me for today. Thank you very much, dear students. We will meet with the next lecture or video very soon with another new poem.